Heartwarming moment. Undercover boss discovers life-changing truth at 9 p.m., inspiring everyone. In the bustling heart of a small Midwest town, the aroma of freshly baked apple pie filled the diner like a warm embrace. Sarah, a single mother of two, poured her heart into this cherished establishment, her late father's legacy. Each day, from the crack of dawn until the last customer departed, she juggled the demands of the diner with the joys and challenges of motherhood. Lily, her bright-eyed 7-year-old, often assisted with serving, while Jake, her spirited 5-year-old, darted between tables, spreading laughter where he went. It was a tight-knit community in that diner, where stories were shared over steaming mugs of coffee and slices of the finest apple pie. But the economic storm clouds loomed overhead. A corporate giant set its sights on her diner, a hunger for profits threatening to swallow her dream whole. The thought churned in her stomach like a bad pie. Sarah fought to keep her family afloat, pouring every ounce of love and sweat into her work. Yet some days even her famous apple pie felt heavy, like a bittersweet reminder of all that was at stake. Amid this struggle, a surprise came knocking at the diner door, the crew from Undercover Boss. At first, Sarah didn't see how this could help her chaotic life. James, the sharply dressed director with a hidden agenda, thought he was simply evaluating a business, not diving into a story filled with heartbreak, resilience, and a community spirit. As the cameras rolled, he stepped into Sarah's world, unwittingly becoming a part of something much bigger. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As he navigated through the diner, his gaze started to shift. He witnessed Sarah greet each customer with a smile, remembering their names, and pouring her heart into every interaction. He saw the laughter from children echoing around, a comforting reminder of the diner's warmth. The way Sarah handled both her children, full of affection and patience, contrasted sharply with the pressures building around her. Each pie she served was not just dessert. It was her stubborn fight against an unforgiving world, a battle she didn't intend to lose. But with every passing moment, the stakes grew higher, the weight of economic inequality pressing down like an unyielding storm cloud. Sarah was at a crossroads between honor and survival, loyalty to her father's dream, and the onset of an all-consuming corporate takeover. Meanwhile, James felt the pull of Sarah's story weaving its way deep into his conscience, challenging the very foundation of everything he believed in. In a diner alive with community spirit, their twisting paths were bound to intertwine in ways they could never have imagined. With every emotional twist that unfolded, each heartwarming scene building to a crescendo, it became clear. The challenge ahead was not just business. This was about the spirit of America and the fight for dignity. The diner buzzed with energy, the clinking of cutlery and low chatter creating a symphony of community life. James stood behind the counter, apron snug around his waist, a surprising thrill racing through him. He never imagined this experience could shift his perspective in such profound ways. Each pie sliced, every cup of coffee poured, mirrored the hard-working individuals whose stories he hadn't fully appreciated before. And then there was Sarah, her grace and determination weaving a narrative richer than any business report. As he watched her serve a trio of elderly patrons, the corners of her mouth dancing with genuine joy, another realization settled in. Sarah was more than just a diner owner. She was the heart of this community. He could see it through their interactions, the way their eyes sparkled with recognition, and how each plate was delivered with a sprinkle of love along with the meals. He was witnessing something special, yet the impending corporate threat loomed ominously in the back of his mind. Can you believe these youngsters nowadays? One of the older gentlemen quipped, chuckling as he pointed at Jake darting through the tables. The warmth surged like a gentle wave, and Sarah responded with a soft laugh, her affection echoing through the diner. I know, right? He thinks he runs the place. Sarah shot back, her sparkling smile lighting up the room. James felt a sense of belonging overcoming him, a tugging desire. What if he didn't just record this experience? What if he could protect it? This didn't feel like just another job. It felt personal. Later, as the lunch rush waned, Sarah slipped into the kitchen, taking a moment to breathe. The weight of keeping her father's dream alive pressed heavily on her shoulders, a constant reminder of her fierce dedication. She leaned against the countertop, a moment of stillness washing over her. But the calm faded quickly as she thought of the looming corporate takeover. That giant would crush everything she held dear. James entered quietly, a cautious look in his eyes. "Sarah," he began, his voice steady yet laced with concern. "Can we talk?" Her heart fluttered, the anxious part of her almost afraid to know what he would say. "Sure, what's on your mind?" He hesitated, words simmering on the edge of revelation. He wanted to share his insights about her diner, but how could he voice the truth without seeming patronizing? "I've noticed how much this place means to you, and to everyone. It's not just food, it's home." Sarah's gaze deepened, searching for honesty in his eyes. "Home's getting harder to keep, James. I'm fighting a battle, and I'm not sure how much longer I can hold on. This diner is everything." There was a spark of something in James's chest, a rising urgency he recognized as a call to action. "What if there's a way to help? I may have some ideas that could bridge both worlds, yours and the corporate one." Hope flickered in Sarah. Hesitation held her back. But what kind of help? Can they be trusted? What if they use it against me? That question hung in the air. The very foundation of her existence was on the line, and the unknown danced ominously just outside the door. With every second ticking by, they stood at a precipice, waiting to leap into a new chapter where dreams either flourished or shattered. As they locked eyes, a bond began to form, a fragile thread connecting their hopes and fears. What began as a simple assignment had morphed into something with the power to impact not just Sarah's life, but the entire community. With the weight of the world on her shoulders, Sarah asked, "What exactly do you have in mind?" At that moment, the scene shifted, the stakes higher than ever. Little did they know, their next steps would decide not only the fate of the diner, but possibly their lives. Would they dare to go against the tide of corporate greed, risking it all for what truly mattered? The words hung between them, laden with the promise of change. And just like that, the next challenge awaited them. A storm brewing on the horizon. James took a breath, feeling the gravity of the moment pressing down on him. "Sarah, I think we can launch a community initiative, something that showcases what this diner means to the people here. We could gather stories, share meals, and hold events that draw everyone in. The corporate folks might see this place as just a business, but if we can show them it's more, a heart beating in the town's chest, they might think twice." Her eyes widened with intrigue and skepticism. Holding on to any flicker of hope felt dangerous, but she couldn't shake the feeling of possibility. "A community initiative? You think that would make a difference?" "It could. We could get everyone involved, local farmers, artists, musicians. We could have themed nights, storytelling sessions, even cooking workshops. If we pull this off, we'll show the corporation that this diner isn't some brick-and-mortar shop. It's people, it's history, and it's worth saving." Sarah leaned forward, the tension easing from her shoulders. "You really believe that? That we could change their mind with a couple of events?" "I do," James replied, his confidence growing. "But we have to act fast. We need to create buzz and get people excited. It's time to showcase this place and everything it stands for." Sarah nodded, her heart racing. The idea resonated deeply with her. "All right, let's do it. But how do we even start?" "Let's brainstorm. We can write down some ideas tonight, and I'll help you organize a meeting with the locals. If we can get everyone on board, we can make some noise." With each word, she felt a renewed vigor. Maybe they could do this. Maybe they could fight together and become a resistance against the whitewashed corporate world aiming for their home. There was strength in community. As the sun began to set, casting warm golden rays into the diner, the reality began to sink in. They were on the edge of something big, an opportunity to ripple out far beyond their small town. With excitement bubbling between them, they dove into planning. Hours passed like minutes as ideas flowed, Laughter erupted, and the atmosphere thickened with hopeful possibilities. They scribbled plans on napkins, exchanged thoughts over the sizzling griddle, and even threw in a couple of silly names for the events that made them both giggle. But as night descended, a distant noise pulled Sarah's gaze toward the window. She could see silhouettes moving outside, figures that didn't belong. The shadows looked ominous, and her heart raced again, this time from dread. "James, do you see those people?" she whispered, her voice shaking. He turned, squinting past the bright lights of the diner. "Yeah, who do you think they are?" Before either could process what was happening, a loud bang echoed as something hit the door. They exchanged panicked glances, the warmth of their earlier ideas now swallowed in fear. "What if they're not just random passers-by?" Sarah said, her mind racing with worries about the corporate threat looming over her diner. "Let's not jump to conclusions. We should check it out. Together," James said, taking a step toward the door, resolute. As they both approached the entrance, their hearts pounded like drums. The storm they sensed earlier was no longer just metaphorical. It was real, and it was here. What awaited them outside could change everything. Would they stand together against whatever storm was brewing? With one last shared glance, they swung the door open, stepping away from the comfort of their plans and into the unknown, ready to face whatever lay ahead. The door swung open with a creak, revealing the dark night outside. The cold air rushed in, mingling with the warmth of the diner, but it couldn't chase away the chill creeping up Sarah's spine. Shadows shifted, growing larger as the figures moved closer. They weren't just passers-by, there were too many of them, and their intent looked questionable. "Who are you?" James called out, his voice steady but edged with caution. A tall figure stepped forward, illuminated by the diner's bright lights. He wore a jacket emblazoned with the company's logo, a sight that sent dread coursing through Sarah. Others followed behind, their faces partially obscured, but she could see the air of confrontation hanging between them like a storm cloud. "Good to see you both," the man said, forcing a smile that felt far from genuine. "Just wanted to have a little chat." Sarah's heart thudded loudly in her chest. There was a knowing in that layered voice, a veiled threat hidden beneath pleasantries. James lifted his chin, challenging yet wary. "We don't want any trouble. This is our diner, and we're busy planning some events." The man's smile stretched a fraction wider. "Busy, huh? I hope it doesn't involve trying to fight what's coming, because that's something you should really reconsider." James stepped forward, protective. "We're not afraid of you or what you represent. This diner is a part of this town, and we won't let it go down without a fight." Sarah placed a hand on his arm, urging him to temper his words. She turned to the man, trying to keep her voice steady. "We're just trying to share our story, show what this place means to our community." "Story?" the man scoffed. "Story doesn't keep the lights on. This isn't a fairy tale, kids. You're living in the real world. You really think a few fancy nights will save your little diner from what the corporate machine is planning?" His words struck hard. Doubts flickered over Sarah's mind like moths to a flame. Was what they were planning naive? Yet looking at James's determined face, she found a spark of defiance. "It's not just about saving the diner," she replied, her voice stronger than she felt. "It's about bringing people together. It's about fighting for a way of life that matters. You may see dollars, but we see heart." The man's expression hardened. "Heart doesn't pay the bills. All I'm saying is the sooner you realize that, the better off you'll be." Without waiting for a response, he stepped back into the shadows, signaling his crew to follow. They processed slowly, the air thick with tension, leaving Sarah and James standing at the threshold of a battle they weren't entirely sure they were ready to fight. "What now?" James asked, uncertainty creeping into his voice. "We figure out how to fight back," Sarah said, determination lighting her eyes. "We get the community involved. We need to share our stories, just like we planned. If they think this is just a business, they're wrong. We have so much to show them." James nodded, a fire igniting in his chest. "You're right, but it's going to take everything we've got to stand up to them. With everyone behind us, we won't just be standing up. We'll rise together," Sarah said, feeling emboldened. As they stepped back inside, the thought of how to rally the community played at the edges of their minds. They needed a plan, but with each corner turned in their strategizing, the threat loomed larger, making them question how far they would really go to protect their diner and each other. With each moment they spent unraveling how to unite the town, that chilling conversation echoed in their minds like a warning. What if it wasn't enough? The stakes had never been higher. How could they convince the townspeople to join them, to see what was truly at risk before it was too late? The diner felt different as Sarah and James moved around the familiar booths and counter, the air charged with urgency. They needed to act fast. The looming threat had transformed their cozy little haven into a battleground. "Let's start by reaching out to the people who care about this place," Sarah suggested, glancing at the empty chairs filled with memories. "We can schedule a community meeting, get everyone talking." James crossed his arms, deep in thought. "That's a good start. But we need to show them what's at stake, not just tell them." As if their conversation had awakened the diner, the sound of coffee being poured and plates clattering pulled their attention. A few regulars were filtering in, unaware of the storm on the horizon. Among them was Mrs. Jenkins, a sprightly old woman with a penchant for pancakes in the town's history. "Hey, Sarah, James, lovely night for some comfort food, isn't it?" she chirped, her silver hair gleaming under the diner's neon lights. "Definitely," Sarah replied, forcing a smile. "But we need to talk to you about something important." Mrs. Jenkins tilted her head, sensing the unease. "Oh? Is everything all right?" "We're facing a big challenge," James said, his eyebrows knit together. "The diner. It's at risk of being taken over by a corporate chain." A gasp escaped Mrs. Jenkins' lips. "Not my favorite diner. What can I do to help?" "Join us for a meeting," Sarah urged. "We want to gather everyone who loves this place to come together." Mrs. Jenkins' eyes lit up with determination. "I'll bake cookies. Everyone loves my chocolate chip cookies." As the words left her mouth, Sarah felt a weight lift. Maybe they weren't alone in this fight. Within the hour, the diner began to fill with familiar faces. The sound of laughter and chatter intertwined with the aroma of fresh coffee, weaving a sense of community that Sarah had hoped to capture. James stepped up on a chair to address the crowd gathered in the booth area. "Thank you all for coming," he said, his voice gaining strength. "We have a situation. A corporate chain wants to take over the diner. But we believe our stories, our connections, can rally us to protect this place." The crowd shifted, whispers fluttered between them like a warm breeze. Sarah could feel the pulse of hope begin to build. "And what do we do?" a voice called out. It was Tim, the mechanic. "I'm no good at rallies or speeches." "Well, what you are good at is fixing things," Sarah said, her heart racing with excitement. "We want everyone to pitch in. Different strengths for a common goal. Tim, you can help set up the meeting. Maybe bring the music folks in. They can fill the diner with song and we can make an event out of it." In the ensuing moments, ideas came one after another. Flyers created by art students, those who had experienced loss at the hands of corporate giants, shared their stories of heartache, and the town's bake sales began spilling over with lively chatter of what mattered most to them. It felt like fireworks igniting in Sarah's heart. Just as they settled on a date for the community gathering, the diner door swung open again, and in strolled the man from earlier, the one who had brought the cold dread with him. His presence cut through the warmth of their newfound resolve. He leaned casually against the doorframe, smirking as he surveyed the crowd. "Didn't expect to see you all bonding," he said, his tone dripping with sarcasm. "You're not seriously considering fighting back, are you?" James's fists clenched at his sides. "This diner is worth fighting for. We'll show you that heart beats money." The man chuckled, stepping closer. "Well, good luck with that. Just remember, it's not just about you anymore." The tension split the air like a rubber band, stretching to the brink of snapping. As he stepped back into the night, the fleeting laughter from the diner felt like a fragile string caught in a tempest. "Are you all ready for this?" Sarah asked, taking a deep breath. A chorus of voices echoed her sentiment. "Yes." It felt like they were all in this together now, a team determined to protect their little diner, their heart. But the clock was ticking. Would it be enough? As they began to plan, an unsettling thought rolled through Sarah's mind. What if the townsfolk's unity was put to the ultimate test by forces much stronger than them? What if their hearts weren't enough to save what they loved the most? The diner buzzed with an energy that felt electric, yet the shadow of uncertainty lingered. Sarah watched as familiar faces began to pulse with shared determination. It was heartening, yet troubling. They needed more than just talk. They needed a plan, and fast. "All right, everyone, let's gather around," James said, waving his hands to catch the attention of the feisty group. "We need to split into teams. Who's willing to take on different tasks to rally the community?" Hands shot up, excitement illuminating faces as Sarah felt the warmth spread through her chest. Mrs. Jenkins already had a notepad in her lap, jotting down ideas amidst her chatter about cookies. Tim chimed in. "I can get a list of local businesses to support us. They'll understand what's at stake." "Great idea," Sarah encouraged, her heart swelling with gratitude. "And I'll take the lead in reaching out to local media. We need to spread the word about our meeting." With ideas buzzing like bees, the diner transformed into a hub of activity. The clatter of plates became a backdrop to heartfelt conversations and fierce discussions. They were coming together, and it filled Sarah with hope. But just as a sense of harmony began to set in, the door swung open again. The man who'd cast a shadow over their earlier plans strolled back in, this time with a few followers, a couple of suited men who looked just as imposing as him. Sarah's stomach twisted, recognition sparking uneasy whispers among the crowd. "Still ignoring the inevitable, huh?" he said, a mocking grin plastered on his face. "You really think you can stop us, this little gathering of yours?" The air stilled, electrified with a blend of fear and defiance. James stepped forward. "We're not afraid of you. This community matters to us, more than profit ever will." "Ah, the heart of it all," the man replied, his tone patronizing. "But love can't pay for renovations, can it? Or cover the bills when they stack up?" Sarah felt anger and frustration bubbling up inside her. "You think money can buy loyalty?" she shot back, her voice steady. "This diner is a home to so many. We're family here." He eyed her, a flicker of surprise etching his features before he regained composure. "Family doesn't fight corporate giants, sweetheart. Just so you know, I'm not leaving without what I want." "Then you'll have to go through every single one of us," James declared, solid as a rock. The crowd behind him surged with energy, their collective spirit rising up like a wave. In that moment, fear transformed into something else, fierce passion. The man exhaled slowly, his smirk faltering. He exchanged glances with his companions, sizing up this unexpected coalition gathering strength. "I admire your spirit, really. But just wait. The truth has a way of surfacing." With that, he turned on his heel, his followers trailing behind him as the din of the diner regained its rhythm. But an unsettling silence followed, each person caught in their thoughts. "What did he mean?" Sarah murmured, her heart pounding. "I don't know, but it can't be good," Tim replied, a furrow etched on his brow. "Whatever it is, we'll face it together," James said, his voice resolute. As they resumed planning, doubt nagged at Sarah. Was their unity enough to withstand whatever the man had in store? Still, as they gathered ideas, laughter began to bubble up again, the strength of community shining through the cracks of anxiety. Yet Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that the real battle was just beginning. As they turned back to their preparations, one thought flickered in her mind. Would she find the strength to uncover the truth and fight for the diner that had been their lifeline? The stakes were rising, and they needed to prepare for more than just a meeting. They were heading into a storm, and she could feel it coming. The next few days felt like a blur for Sarah. Every evening, the diner transformed into a war room where strategies were devised and plans drafted. She dove headfirst into her role, reaching out to local newspapers and radio stations. The rhythm of her days became a dance, a blend of hope and anxiety that kept her moving. Mrs. Jenkins's baked goods filled the air with warmth. They were a reminder of home, a distraction from the growing tension. Each cookie offered a sense of comfort, a moment of laughter amongst planning to combat the looming threat. People trickled in, sharing stories of the diner's significance in their lives, fueling their resolve. But Sarah felt a creeping unease. The man's parting words echoed in her mind. What truth? What was he hiding? She couldn't shake the fear that the fight would involve more than just rallying the community. It would require confronting some harsh realities. She needed to uncover whatever truth he meant before it could unravel everything. One late afternoon, she slipped out of the diner, driven by a sudden impulse. A small, run-down office building on the edge of town had always seemed suspicious to her. It was here that she believed the man had strong connections, the kind that could devastate their dreams for the diner. She crossed the street and peered through the grimy glass windows. A small desk stood at the center, papers strewn about chaotically. Sarah's heart raced as she imagined digging deeper. What secrets were hidden inside those walls? Her gut twisted with both anxiety and determination. As she looked closer, she noticed two men in dark suits walking out, carrying folders that seemed way too bulky for casual paperwork. They exchanged hurried words, glancing back at the building, as if someone might be watching them. Sarah's eyes narrowed. She slipped into the alley beside the building, hoping to stay out of sight. With her heart pounding, she leaned against the brick wall, straining to hear their conversation. "It'll be our best shot. If we play it right, we can easily push them out entirely," one man said, his voice steady but laced with malice. "I just hope they don't sniff around too much," the other replied. "If they find out what we really have planned..." Panic coursed through Sarah. The "we" they referred to could be something much larger than she had anticipated. It wasn't just about the diner. It was about something that threatened the entire community. As they walked away, she felt an overwhelming urge to act. She snapped a quick photo of the building and its signs, evidence she might use later. "Sarah?" The soft voice of Tim startled her. He had followed her after noticing her absence. "Did you hear that?" she whispered, her voice tense. "This isn't just about the diner. They're planning something big." Tim's eyes widened, catching her anxiety. "We need to tell the group. We can't just sit back and hope for the best." "Yes," she said, the weight of her realization heavy on her shoulders. "But we need a strategy. If we approach this fight half-heartedly..." He nodded, a fire lighting within his eyes. "We'll gather everyone tonight. The full scope of their plans needs to be out in the open." As they rushed back to the diner, Sarah's heart beat with renewed purpose. They weren't just fighting for a building. They were fighting for their entire way of life. But would the truth they unearthed bond them together, or would it tear them apart? The meeting loomed ahead, filled with possibility and peril, and an unsettling question lingered in her mind. Once they unveiled the truth, would they have the courage to face it? The diner buzzed with energy as Sarah and Tim walked in. The familiar smell of coffee and cinnamon welcomed them back, but this time it felt laced with urgency. The sun had dipped below the horizon, casting the diner in a warm, amber glow. People were already gathered, their faces illuminated by a mix of worry and determination. Sarah climbed onto a chair to get everyone's attention. The clattering of plates and hushed conversations fell silent. "Thank you all for coming on such short notice," she began, her voice steady but filled with an underlying tremor. "I have something important to share." Tim stood beside her, ready to offer support. Sarah took a deep breath, glancing around at familiar faces. Friends, family, and loyal customers, all of whom had been part of the diner's heartbeat for years. The warmth of their presence wrapped around her like a comforting shawl. "Today I went to that rundown office building at the edge of town. I overheard a conversation between two men in dark suits," she explained, every word weighed down by gravity. "They're planning to push us out, to destroy the diner. But it's worse than that. They have something much larger in their sights, something that threatens our entire community." Murmurs swept through the crowd. Some gasped, others exchanged fearful glances. Mrs. Jenkins clutched her cookie tray, the sweet treats forgotten in her hands. "What do they want?" a voice called out from the back. "The details were vague," Sarah replied, her heart racing. "But it seems they're not just interested in money or property. They want control. We can't let that happen. We are stronger together." A young man, one of the regulars, spoke up. "So, what do we do? How can we stop them?" Sarah felt a rush of gratitude for the spirit of solidarity there. We need to organize, gather information, and get the word out. If we stand united, we can fight them. But we must be strategic about it. We can't rush in blind. The group fell into a productive chatter, voices rising and falling, ideas bouncing around like popcorn in a hot pan. Tim took charge, suggesting they create a flyer to spread awareness within the community. Others volunteered to talk to neighbors or attend the next town meeting, each person eager to play their part in protecting their beloved diner. Sarah felt a swell of hope, a little flicker igniting within her. Maybe this fight could bring them all closer together. As they made plans, she noticed Mrs. Jenkins quietly standing by the pastry display. Her eyes glistened with unshed tears, and the vision struck Sarah hard. "Mrs. Jenkins?" Sarah asked gently as she hopped off the chair. "Are you okay?" With a shaky voice, the older woman replied, "I just remember when my husband owned this diner. It was everything to our family. Every bite we serve is love, isn't it?" "It is," Sarah confirmed, reaching out to squeeze the woman's hand. "And it's that love that brought us all together tonight. We won't let it go without a fight." Mrs. Jenkins smiled through her tears, a moment of connection transcending the surrounding panic. As the meeting progressed, ideas transformed into actionable steps. Each plan solidified the bond among them. But beneath the surface, anxiety bubbled. They could fight together, but the unknown still loomed like a storm cloud, threatening to break overhead. When the last word was spoken and goodbyes exchanged, Sarah lingered, watching as the last of the community filed out, heartened and hopeful. Tim stayed back, their shoulders brushing as they surveyed the now empty diner. "Do you think we can really stop them?" he asked quietly, concern knitting his brow. Sarah wanted to reassure him, to say yes without hesitation. But doubt flickered in her mind along with the diner's warm lights. "We have to try. At least we've got each other, right? That has to count for something." Tim smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Sarah felt a chill. Their fight had only just begun. What if the truth they uncovered was more dangerous than they imagined? What sacrifices would be necessary to save what they loved most? As they locked up the diner, a single thought echoed in her mind. Could they truly protect their community from the shadows lurking just out of sight? The next morning arrived with a tense hush, the kind that followed a thunderstorm. The diner was quiet, save for the rhythmic drip of the coffee maker and the soft shuffle of Sarah's feet as she wiped down the counter. The usual morning chatter was replaced by an unsettling anticipation. Each time the bell above the door jingled, Sarah's heart fluttered. Tim didn't show up like he usually did. Just as she was about to text him, the door swung open, and in walked the young man from the meeting, Ethan. He was carrying a stack of flyers, a determined look on his face. "Hey, Sarah," he called, waving the flyers as if they were a banner of hope. "I got these printed up and ready to go. We can start putting them up around town today." Sarah felt a warmth spread through her chest. "That's amazing. Did you get the design and everything?" "Yeah, I thought if we make it bright and eye-catching, people would notice. Plus, I wrote a little something about the diner and why it matters to the community," he said, handing her one. She scanned it quickly. "This is perfect. Really, Ethan, thank you." And she meant it. With each effort made by others, the burden lifted ever so slightly from her shoulders. As they worked together, posting flyers in shop windows and community boards, more familiar faces showed up to help. Mrs. Jenkins arrived, bringing a batch of cookies as a rallying treat, adding sweet fuel to their efforts. Other regulars appeared, enthusiasm painting their faces loyal to the cause and each other. The day was consumed with action. They moved from one corner of town to another, transforming the dull normalcy of a Thursday into an active demonstration of love. Every smile exchanged, every cookie shared, reinvigorated Sarah's spirit. By evening, they returned to the diner, a bit tired but glowing with adrenaline. The place was now a hub of energy. Sarah felt like she could breathe a little easier for the first time in days. But just as the comfort settled in, the bell jingled again. This time it wasn't just a local regular strolling in. Two figures stepped inside, their sharp suits unmistakably out of place in the cozy diner. Sarah's heart sank. "Good evening, folks," one of them said, his voice smooth yet chilling. "We'd like to have a word with the owner. Sarah, is it?" A wave of tension rolled through the diner, freezing the warmth that had just enveloped the room. Tim, who had arrived moments later, moved to stand near Sarah. He could feel her unease. "What do you want?" Sarah managed to ask, her voice barely concealing her defiance. "Just a friendly chat about your little campaign," the other man replied, smirking slightly. "You see, we believe in making our business decisions without unnecessary noise. But you seem to have quite the support around here." Sarah glanced around at the tables full of faces, some wide-eyed, others narrowed in concern. "This diner means something to us. You can't just—" The man interrupted. "Oh, but we can, and we will." His gaze swept over the diner like a predator sizing up its territory. Tim stepped forward. "You won't scare us away. We'll fight for our community." The man regarded Tim with a calculated stare, then turned back to Sarah. "You might want to reconsider your efforts. Some things are better left unsaid." As they turned to leave, a shared breath escaped everyone in the diner at once, a collective release of the tension. Sarah felt a mix of anger and fear grip her heart. "Are they really going to come after us?" Ethan asked, looking pale. "We have to protect our home. We've started this fight together and we can't back down now," Sarah said, her voice trembling but resolute. But lingering questions filled the air. What would be the price of their fight? What lengths would those men go to in order to silence them? As the diner fell into a hushed conversation about what to do next, Sarah felt something stir deep within, an urgency that demanded to be faced. Would they have the strength to uncover the truth behind those dark suits? And would they discover something that could turn the tide in their favor, or put everything they loved in even greater danger? The morning light streamed through the diner's windows, embracing the room in a new warmth. A sense of anticipation buzzed in the air, yet uncertainty clung like a shadow as Sarah prepared for the community meeting later that evening. She poured coffee and made notes at the counter, her thoughts swirling. What would bring everyone together to combat the looming threat? The door jingled, and the first faces of her patrons filled the room. Tim entered with a determined stride, followed by Mrs. Jenkins, and then the others, each carrying a spark of hope and camaraderie. As they gathered, the atmosphere shifted from worry to resolve. They had formed a bond hard to break. "Tonight we need a plan," Sarah began, her voice steady and full of purpose. "We can't let their intimidation tear us apart. Everyone here means so much to this place, and together we can show them our strength." The group murmured agreement. Ideas began to flow. They talked about everything: media campaigns, rallying support across social media, and maybe even reaching out to friends in the city. Each suggestion dug deeper into their hearts, and Sarah felt her spirit lift as hope washed over her. "Okay, let's put thought into action," Tim suggested, his eyes brightening. "We need to mobilize quickly. We need allies, so we should reach out to other local businesses. If we stand together, our voices become a chorus they can't drown out." The excitement was palpable. The diner transformed from a simple eatery into a vibrant nerve center of community activism. Laughter bounced off the walls, mingling with the aromatic scent of freshly baked goods. Sarah paused, marveling at the energy swirling around. Their essence was not just about fighting against a takeover, it was about reclaiming what belonged to them. As dusk settled over the town, the diner filled with people, all eager to support the rally. Sarah felt an electric thrill run through her as she welcomed each newcomer. This was what it meant to be united, to care for each other amidst the brewing storm. With every passing moment, her voice grew stronger. "People here love this diner. They aren't just regulars. They're family. And as a community, we can't let others dictate our story." The crowd erupted in cheers, a wave of strength rippling through them. Together, they crafted a plan to maximize turnout for the meeting, inviting the media, local figures, and anyone who would listen. It wasn't just about keeping the diner open. It was about representing their stories, their livelihoods, and their shared history. As Sarah looked around, she saw Lily and Jake, her children, mingling with the crowd, their innocent laughter juxtaposed against the backdrop of serious discussions. In that moment, It crystallized for her. This fight was for them too. When the door swung open again, the familiar figure of James stepped in, a determined expression settling on his face. "I've been working on something," he said, stepping closer to Sarah. "I managed to get a meeting lined up with a local news outlet. They're interested in hearing your story." "Really?" Sarah exclaimed, heart racing. "You think they'll help?" "They want to cover the community aspect of this fight," he replied. "If we can get good exposure, it could really turn the tide in our favor." The realization sent a rush of adrenaline through her. This was how they would face the corporate threat, head on, and with a voice that rang loud and clear. After hours of brainstorming and excitement, the evening drew to a close. The diner emptied, but Sarah remained, staring out at the emptiness of the booth that usually held laughter. "Are you all right?" Tim asked, leaning against the counter beside her. "I just wonder if we can really do this," Sarah admitted, vulnerability creeping into her voice. "What if it's not enough?" Tim's presence felt reassuring as he considered her words. "Sometimes it takes one spark to light a fire. You've already ignited that spark in this town. You've brought everyone together. That's the first step." Sarah pressed her lips together, absorbing his words. "In the end," Tim continued, "we fight together. No matter how difficult it gets, we face it as one." Hours later, as Sarah closed up the diner, her heart swelled with gratitude. The community was ready, and their hard work felt cemented in shared resolve. But she still remembered the faces of the men from the corporate side. The reminder lingered ominously, but she could feel a light breaking through the clouds of doubt. The following day, the meeting unfolded, and it was electric. Reporters filled the seats, eager to capture the spirit of something monumental. As Sarah stood in front of the crowd, she felt a surge of purpose, her heart drumming with excitement and apprehension. Deep breath. "We stand together today not just for a diner," she began, her voice carrying through the air. "We stand together for our community, together against corporate greed, against being silenced. Because every apple pie and each smile shared over coffee is a testament to our love and resilience." Applause erupted as her words washed over them. She felt the deep connection that brought them here, the love that fueled their fight. Families, friends, and neighbors. This was their true strength. The following weeks became a turning point. News articles painted a vivid picture of the fight at the diner. Social media buzzed with hashtags and photos, bringing even more patrons to their doors. But Sarah never lost sight of the shadows lurking beyond. Each day shaped their journey forward, revealing deeper truths. Faced with obstacles and unforeseen threats, the community stood tall, together, every step of the way. And when the day of the town hall meeting arrived, Sarah felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. They were ready to put their case forward. Together, they did more than defend their diner. They defended the heart of their community. As everything unfolded, cheers erupted as more and more voices joined in solidarity. They were not just fighting for a diner anymore. They were declaring their worth, their love, and their shared life in every corner of this town. Finally, when the man from the corporate office reappeared, he was met with a chorus no amount of money could silence. As discussions evolved into affirmations, it became clear. No matter the outcome, they had forged something essential: trust, love, and unbreakable bonds. And just like that, they emerged victorious, not just in preserving the diner but in reviving their spirit as a community united. They learned that love isn't counted in dollars, but in the sacrifices made alongside one another. With radiant smiles and teary eyes, they looked forward, knowing they had the strength to create a future together worth fighting for. The diner stood, lovingly embraced by the voices of the town, alive with stories, laughter, and unyielding heart. And in that moment, Sarah understood that home isn't merely a place, it's the people you share it with. As they welcomed a new day, one thing rang crystal clear: this is just the beginning. If you felt the magic of this story, if it stirred something in you, now is the time to show your support. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories that inspire hope and community. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep those wonderful tales alive. We want to hear from you, so comment your reactions and feelings about this ending. What did it mean to you? And please, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation and know the power of community. This is the moment to let your voices be heard and be a part of something big. Don't wait not even one more second to share.